Hey everybody, Andrew from Board Game Rundown here, and I wanted to talk to you about something that's been on my mind for about a month now. It's kind of like the famous debate, right? Like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, Disney's live action remakes or the originals, Ultima Online or World of Warcraft, vinyl records, MP3s, you get the point. Like is the original better than like the revamped newer version of things? Stay till the end to find out what I think of all four of those. But when Tim sent us a picture of Everdell Farshore, I couldn't believe my eyes. Actually, I was under the impression that after the complete edition of the Everdell saga was sold out on Kickstarter, I thought it was the end of the Everdell universe, but I was wrong. Like when I opened our chat group and I saw Farshore, I had so many questions. Like, how did Tim get a hold of this? Is this like contraband? Like, how did he get this? When can I play it? Like, can I come over and play right now? Are we able to review it? Is there an NDA on this? When is it going for sale? Is it finished? Do they want us to play test it and give them feedback? I needed to play Everdell Farshore. And when I learned that I was unable to film for the review, I was actually crushed. But I was excited that the other guys could review it in my stead. I, after all, did introduce many of the guys to Vanilla Everdell, which I have right here. And for some strange reason, I'm even kind of proud of it. It feels good when I introduce games to my friends or my family, and in response, they enjoy them. But upon playing Farshore, I have to ask the question, like, should you buy Farshore? Should you play it? And, well, of course you should play it, but is this the first Everdell game you should buy? And if I'm being honest, for some of you, the answer might be no. And let me elaborate why before I start getting loads of hate in the comments. But first, before I get into this, if you would do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us. We're a group of 6 guys, and we love board games, and we put a lot of effort into this, and we'd be grateful if you followed our content. Then at the end of the video, if you enjoyed it, give it a like. I'd greatly appreciate that. So when playing Farshore, it feels like James Wilson, the creator of Vanilla Everdell, went back to the drawing boards and asked himself, like, where can I polish up the areas of the game that I never initially addressed? It's without a doubt to say that Everdell has sold thousands and thousands of copies. You can see this game everywhere, from your local game store to even like Target. It's very impressive. But enter Farshore, the next iteration in the series. And it's a game that it feels like Vanilla Everdell. From what I've experienced, though, it's a tighter and more thoughtful rendition of its predecessor. So I won't lie, in Farshore, things are a little bit harder. I don't max out my city, and I don't end my game with loads of resources. But the game still feels like Everdell, don't get me wrong. Thematically, Farshore is beautiful. Starling Games has once again knocked it out of the park. Very impressive. Artistically, the game feels like home. It's warm, welcoming, but it's not cheesy. It's not childlike. I smirk every time I play a card. I have no problem saying these cards are cute. It's like Root without the machete in your mouth, like it's a little less cutthroat, but it still feels like, your wildland critters. I am challenged in Farshore, and I'm number crunching more in Farshore. I'm trying to min-max my city more in Farshore, even if it's only a little bit more than in the original Vanilla Everdell. But the reason I was so excited for Farshore was because of my original Everdell experience. And I can't stop finding myself missing what Farshore has removed from the original Everdell that I once knew. I'm almost sounding like I can't just go back into my basement and pull out Everdell. It's not like it's gone forever. I can still go play the original Everdell. I digress. So there's a couple of key features that I truly love about the Vanilla Everdell, and I'm curious to hear what you think about these points in the comment section once you finally get your hands on a copy of Farshore. The first is the renovation of the occupied system. In Vanilla Everdell, many critters had a thematically matching and complementary construction. For example, the judge could be played for free if you already had a courthouse. I loved scouring the market for critters that could get played into my city at no cost. It was like finding a diamond in the rough and then hoping that your opponents didn't take that card, right? Starling Games kept true to their original equation, but instead implemented the anchor tokens. Now, anchor tokens can play any critter for free so long as you have a construction that matches the card type. For more information for how this works, you can actually see my how to play video right here. Anyway, this change siphoned a little bit of the theme, a little bit of the spirit out of the game of Everdell for me. It doesn't feel as exciting to marry a color to the same color card. For me, it was far more exciting to match an inn to the innkeeper. So the counter argument to my point could be, Andrew, giving only one critter construction combo almost feels like you're forcing the player to match if the opportunity presents itself. And to that, I would say you're 100% correct. You may also say that giving players opportunities to play critters for free based on card type allows for city diversity and a better strategy throughout the game. Once again, I would totally agree. The implementation of anchors in Farshore is a better choice for a tighter, more strategic Everdell experience. I just feel like it loses its charm. It doesn't hit me right here. It doesn't feel like I hit a jackpot. And limiting this to only 3 anchors means that while I'm strategically and wisely choosing which card to play for free, if I use this early, I could be stuck having to spend a lot of turns collecting resources later in the game. Once again, strategy over charm. And I get that. The second feature present in Everdell Farshore that I wanted to discuss is where players can place their workers. In vanilla Everdell, there was a host of locations where your workers could go. Basic actions, forest actions along the side, which changed every single game and could give better resources. Numerous other miscellaneous spaces around the board. If you've played vanilla Everdell, you know what I'm talking about. Comparing vanilla Everdell to Farshore shows a stark contrast between the two, and you can clearly tell that Starling Games knew that they needed to boil down these locations. For example, in a 4-player game of vanilla Everdell, there were 25 locations you could place your worker at the beginning of the game, which slowly decreases as, players complete achievements, right? If they get a certain amount of card types, or, if they want to discard those cards at the end of the game to take up the area at the bottom of the board. I'm forgetting what that's called, but you know what I'm talking about. But by the end of the game, there would be 14 locations in vanilla Everdell. In Farshore, you start with 11 locations, and the game will end with only 9 available to all players at the end of the game. This increases the competitive nature. It leads to deeper strategy about when to pull back your workers, and even, blocking other players. Now, don't get me wrong. Farshore is way more streamlined. Dare I even say some of the locations feel way better. But in Everdell, it felt like there was always a place to go. Like if an opponent, we're covering a spot, I could always go somewhere else. Not so much in Farshore, especially with High Tide. In Farshore, island tiles are placed on the bottom of the board, and they're similar to the forest locations in vanilla Everdell. They give more resources than the basic locations at the top of the map. But halfway through the game, 2 of them just go away. Like in a 2-player game, this is devastating. The game becomes almost unset up. It's like you've torn down the board. But even in a 4-player game, the world of Everdell Farshore is a game of scarcer resources. And before you say anything, I know a lot of you are going to buy this very soon. Even in the rule book, Farshore states that it is intentional that they are giving less resources to players. Now, this balances itself with the fact that you can play stronger cards for free using the system I mentioned earlier, but this forces a more strategic and tight experience, kind of like I said earlier. But is that what made me fall in love with Everdell? Is that what made me want to jump through my screen when Tim sent me a picture of Farshore? I don't know. For me, these 2 features present in Farshore are what make me appreciate the fact that in game design, you're never truly finished with a product. Game developers and game designers are always thinking, how could I have made my game better? If I could go back and change X, Y, or Z, would I do it? If so, how would I do it? I'm so grateful that Everdell actually garnered as much success as it did, because it allowed James Wilson and the team at Starling Games to go back, look at Everdell, and make a game that is tougher, more competitive, and more refined. And since I know Starling Games played Everdell a lot more than I did, I trust that Farshore is what they envisioned, and they took each consideration very seriously when it came to deciding what to add and what to take away from, their game. It's their baby. So if you're looking for what I just described in a worker placement game, then by all means, Farshore is definitely your game. But first, I want to say something to those Tims, Bobs, Dans, Mikes, and Spencers of the world who have never tried the vanilla Everdell experience, and they've got a buddy out there who's so excited to show them the original Everdell. Especially since a lot of you are going to be seeing this for the first time at Gen Con coming up. If you haven't played the vanilla Everdell and you have to choose between it and Farshore, please go with the vanilla Everdell experience. Its charm, quality, and appeal reach far beyond many games even coming out to this day. And don't buy it used. I'm not trying to get you to save money. I believe in financially supporting developers when you have a chance, or even publishing companies. These Starling Games is a good brand, and I've seen nothing but quality from them, even reaching outside of the Everdell universe. For example, War of Whispers is in my top 10. I love that game as well. Now, if you've played vanilla Everdell and have to choose between an expansion for Everdell or Farshore, I would encourage you to buy an expansion for Everdell first. The entire first chapter of Everdell is a wonderful experience, and there's so much to explore. And honestly, if you only played the vanilla Everdell and went straight to Farshore, you might even be disappointed. You might feel like you just got a refined version of the first one. Now, if you've experienced the original Everdell and you've played at least one expansion, by the way, I recommend Belfair if you're going to go with one. It's fantastic. Then if you've played Everdell and an expansion, then go ahead and purchase Farshore. It would make a fantastic addition to your collection. And if you're okay with the two things that I discussed in this video, then even more so, you should purchase Farshore. Okay. Let me take a step back again. If you just want a tighter version of Everdell and you haven't played Everdell, but you trust me, then maybe Farshore is the way to go in foregoing the original Everdell altogether. But just for that charm, I would still say you might be making a mistake there. Because on Board Game Geek, I actually gave the original Everdell a 9.5, which is my highest score I give any game. No 10s, no 10s for me. If you read why BGG ranks, or if you read how BoardGameGeek.com defines what a 10 is, I just don't think any game can be a 10. But I know I wasn't part of the review, but I do want to rate Farshore. I do want to give it a 9. Okay, so don't think that this video is me trashing Farshore. And I hope you see that I'm being very specific with my words about Farshore, because I really do enjoy this game. It just took away a couple of things that really initially charmed me about the original Everdell. And I want you to know that whenever I'm going to bring an Everdell game to the table, for the next foreseeable future, I'm going to be intentionally choosing Farshore so that I can hopefully learn to see why certain design decisions were made. Even if I currently don't agree with them, I respect that these decisions were carefully and thoughtfully made. So that was kind of my discussion piece on the next iteration of the Everdell series, which is Farshore. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Farshore. I know a lot of you haven't gotten to play this yet, but it's going to be hitting the shelves soon, especially being released at Gen Con. Will you be purchasing Farshore? Leave a comment below. Have you played the original Everdell? What about its expansions? Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. I gotta say, now that we're at the end, it's clear, it's obvious, it's Majora's Mask. It's the king. What else did I talk about up there? Ultima Online over World of Warcraft all day. If you play Ultima Online, please leave a comment below. I'd love to chat with you. What was the other one? Disney remakes, that's very iffy. The new Lion King is awful, but the new Sleeping Beauty is fantastic. And what else did I talk about? Vinyls or MP3s? Just toss it on an MP3 player. Throw it on your iPhone. Vinyls, it's too expensive. Anyway, finally, if you're going to be at Gen Con this year, I would love to get a game of Farshore going. Stop by our booth. We have our own booth at Gen Con this year, and we'll set up a time to play together. And to help you tout your A game, you can check out my top 5 best critters and constructions in Farshore by clicking right here. Once again, this is Andrew with the Board Game Rundown, signing off.